This video was recorded in front of a live virtual audience. Hi everybody, Dacob here. Welcome back to Essentially Dacob, my perfume shrine. Today we're going to be reviewing another little sample that Louis Vuitton gave me. And you know I ain't going to buy full bottles of these because they're like super expensive. So as long as I have a good relationship with my sales associate and they keep giving me little knickknacks here and there, I'm super grateful for that. So thank you so much to my sales associate for giving me HEURES D'ABSENCE, which means hours of absence. Now, as I'm reviewing this perfume, well, let me zoom it in. You don't really see the name of the perfume there, but I can show it to you here. There it is. HEURES D'ABSENCE or whatever. However it's pronounced in French. It is an eau de parfum concentration. The hours of absence. I'm reviewing this perfume right around Halloween time. So to me, it sounds like a perfume for ghosts. The hours of absence. It could mean two things. Either ghosts that are absent because they're not physical anymore, smell of a certain thing, which is an amazing concept because I've been for years now thinking about how ghosts smell. Do ghosts have a smell? Can ghosts wear perfumes? What are ghost perfumes? But also the hours of absence can have a more poetical meaning in terms of your lover that wears a perfume leaves, and then hours and hours after they're gone, the room and the bed sheets still smell of that person. So hence the hours of absence could also mean that, which is also a very fascinating concept of people you love or you crave or desire. They leave a trace. They leave a smell either on your, because they kissed you all over, on your hair, on your neck, on your skin, or on your clothes, or on your bed sheets, or whatever. Or it could also mean you marking your territory, you going to somebody's place where there's a little bit of a something going on. Then you got your walk of shame the next morning going back home, but you left a little something in their bed, and that is the trace of your perfume. Get your minds out of the gutter. Nothing else than that, right? So if you like my channel, subscribe to it here on YouTube. Thumb up this video. I'm filming this live right now. I live stream every Saturday on my main Super Dacob channel. You are all invited to join the live streams. So I have my wonderful co-chatters with me here who are going to co-review the perfume with me. So I'm going to spray the hours of absence. You can also help me out, the channel out on Patreon, Super Dacob all spelled together on Patreon, but you can also join and become a member of my main channel because the main channel supports also all my side channels. I'm just turning my light a little bit. Okay, you guys. So let's spray it on. And of course it's sprayed all over the place. Okay. So the hours of absence. Now, a bit chemical in the opening note. It's a little bit aggressive, but came out in 2020. Floral woody musk fragrance, it says here, for women, but we know perfumes know no gender. Jacques Cavalier is the nose behind the HEURES D'ABSENCE, the whores of the absent whores, basically. Listen, and then we got Jasmine Sambac. Now the Jasmine Sambac in the top notes. Usually we see jasmine in the mid notes and bottom notes, but here it's already, it's like it slaps you in the face. It smells chemical though. And May Rose. Now jasmine and May Rose. Jasmine Sambac is a night blooming jasmine. Both of them in the top. That's insane. And then we got the middle notes, mimosa. I love me a good mimosa. Not just the drink, but I love the flower, the mimosa flower. Pittosporum, which is a rare one. I don't think I've ever reviewed a perfume that has a prominent note of Pittosporum in it. And raspberry. The raspberry is what makes this thing a bit too teeny, you know? They should have done without the raspberry. I do smell the raspberry, and it's a very chemical note. Base notes are musk, vanilla, and sandalwood. So it does smell like it could potentially be a flanker of a flanker of a flanker of Gaultier's Classique. I know I always keep going back to Classique when I review Louis Vuitton perfumes, but how can you not? Jacques Cavalier created Classique in the 90s. So it's kind of his claim to fame in many ways, one of his most famous perfumes. And even though that's a synthetic mass release fragrance, still everything he does after that has that specific something, which brings us back to Classique. And this one is no different. It has the DNA of Classique in it, but it's much more floral, much more fresh, much more blooming in the top notes, obviously. I mean, if we have two of the major smelling flowers in the top notes being the jasmine and the May rose, you can imagine this thing is like an opulent bouquet. But then it has that musk and sandalwood and vanilla in the base notes. I think, yeah, sandalwood is listed, but it's a synthetic sandalwood. We got the warmth of the vanilla, as we often do. We often have vanilla in the base notes of all perfumes that use vanilla. Some rare, we have really rare cases of perfumes where the vanilla is in the top notes. Usually it's in the base notes. And then you got to dose it right, because if you overdose vanilla, it's a bomb. This here, the vanilla isn't overdosed just yet in the top notes, but you got the vanilla, the sandalwood, and the musks warming all the flowers up. And so you get almost like a creamy smell mixed together with hair conditioner. But a lot of Jacques Cavalier fragrances in the opening notes remind us of hair conditioner, of shampoo, detergent type of hair detergent type of smell, but not in an aggressive way, quite rather in a more subdued, elegant way. But still, you get that tone, that note of we are at the hairstylist somehow. So it is a clean but sharp smell. In addition to that, we have the expensive nuances of niche perfumery, which is the Louis Vuitton fragrant perfumery. They're very expensive for what they are. And again, you know, I've often said this about Louis Vuitton fragrances. You know, they have these, some of them have wonderful names, very poetic names, but then the fragrance doesn't deliver what you imagine the name to represent in form of smell. And that's why I was analyzing the title of this perfume before I started analyzing the smell of it with you guys, because it is so substantial. I mean, the hours of absence, like that is, wow, what a name for a perfume. And you know, if you name your perfume like that, you better deliver. You better have the hours of absence, or the absent hours, or the absence hours really has heft and depth to it. So the perfume better have heft and depth to it. Otherwise, why the heck call it that way if it doesn't deliver? Unless Jacques Cavalier and his team didn't have a whole different concept behind the meaning of the hours of absence. I don't know. My God, this is one of the worst things to pronounce in French. H-E-U-R-E-S, the whores. The absent whores. Heures d'absence. Heures d'absence. Sorry, all y'all's French people out there for me butchering your language, but girl, this is really hard to pronounce. Anyway, so I wonder what else they could have been thinking about. Oh, maybe the hours of absence means all the hours that I'm spending reviewing Louis Vuitton fragrances in the hopes of trying to find one that is mind-blowing. So those are the hours of absence, meaning the missing hours in my life that I spent looking for one where I say, yeah, the price merits. And I did find one or two that are definitely a joy to smell, and that being Cactus Garden. I love Cactus Garden. I'm still on the fence of whether or not it's worth buying a whole full bottle, to be honest with you. because it doesn't smell that good. But within the Louis Vuitton realm, Cactus Garden is one of my favorites, really is. And then there's that other one, you can help me out in the chats, that I reviewed a couple of weeks ago. I don't remember the name anymore, which I thought it was kind of interesting. Forgot the name of it. Because I mean, you know why? They churn out like 20 of these a year, figuratively speaking, because there's just so many of them. Every time I go to the boutique to get some other little monogram, little knick-knack, my sales associate is like, Dacob, we got 5 new perfumes. Which ones would you like to try? I'm like, you just released 5 last week. She's like, yes, but these are newer. So I'm like, every time I go there, it's like you can never catch up with getting all of them. This is one of the reasons, I know I bring in Chanel to everything, but I just love Chanel so much. This is why I love Chanel. They don't churn out 5 to 10 Les Exclusives perfumes every year. Matter of fact, they bring one out every 2 or 3 years. There's a new Les Exclusive coming out every 2 to 3 years. One. Okay? One. While Louis Vuitton brings out 5 to 10 every year, or maybe even more. Dior brings out also like 5 to 10 every year, or maybe even more. Looking forward to what Kurkdjian is going to do. Francis Kurkdjian is going to do now that finally Demachy has left the building. Oh my gosh. Speaking of Demachy, one of my friends who also happens to be a sales associate who used to work for Dior said that Demachy, even though in the interviews you see online and all the texts written about him, how humble he is, how modest he is. Well, she spilled the tea on Demachy. She said when he said that when they said that when he came to visit. So she was working for Dior at the time. She was at the stand at some fair, and so they had their Dior stand and all of the ladies all in the same height, all looking the same, all dressed in their uniforms, all standing in a row, and it was announced that Demachy is now coming. They all had to behave, they were told they have to behave to him as if he were a king. I'm not saying bowing to him, but they said they were given instructions whenever he passes by one of them to compliment him. Oh, pleasure to meet you. What an honor to meet you, Mr. Demachy. I love your perfume so much. You are the best. Every one of them had to say something like that to him. Talk about an ego, bitch. But then like serving up the opposite in interviews, like, oh, how modest and humble. Girl, you could smell in every Demachy creation that that was a stuck-up somebody. Sorry, had to be said. Okay? My personal opinion. Now, I'm thrilled that Dior has been ridden of the burden of the Demachy. He brought them a lot of money with Sauvage. Okay. Still, thank God he's gone. Now, I have high hopes for Francis because, you know, my favorite Dior Collection Privee perfume is Au Noir, which he created before Demachy came to ruin everything. So, there's that. We digress. Let's see if this has developed a little since I was blabbering so much. It's getting interesting. It's becoming more, it has like this tactile powdery smell combined with the acidity of the raspberry, I want to say, that fruity note. The raspberry is mellowing down a little bit, but it's still there. So the raspberry turns this one into more of a teeny fragrance, a very expensive teeny fragrance, might I add. I wish it had a little bit less of the acidity in its nuance. I would crave more of a powdery, soft, velvety texture because I smell that it's there. This one has that potential of reaching that, again, back to Classique. Classique in the dry down comes to a point where it's just a divine vanilla, a rose vanilla, a little bit of ginger in the background, but a rose vanilla that is just velvety, powdery. Gaultier himself describes it as a perfume that he developed together with Jacques Cavalier. He told him that he wanted to bring back the memory of theater and old theaters and old stages, wood that have been there for hundreds of years, and wooden stages and wooden chairs. And you can still smell in the air the residue of the makeup of the actors and the dancers. So you have that powder and makeup mixed with the old woods and the velvet curtains in the air and the lipstick on top of that. That's Classique. And in fact, it delivers that vision. So we get to that dry down of Classique where it becomes this delicious powdery vanilla. Here I have the feeling like it has that potential of going there without it being a mass release, so without it smelling very synthetic. I don't mind the synthetic aspect of the dry down in Classique. I don't mind it at all. But here we're supposed to be using more elevated ingredients, right? So I do see how this one, more than the other perfumes that Cavalier did for Louis, this one veers towards that memory of Classique, but just brought in 2021. You know, we're at the forefront of this new, I don't know if you could call it a technical revolution in perfumery, but perfumery has evolved. There's other ways of synthesizing fragrances, of synthesizing raw materials, making things smell in a certain way that was not possible back in the 80s and 90s. I get all that. I personally would, could you imagine? Hold on just a second. I would love to see a 2021 version or 2022, whatever, 20s version, niche version of Classique. If Classique were to be done with really high-end ingredients in low quantities, how would it smell? How would Cavalier re-envision it? And I would want to say that maybe Heures D'Absence is like the first step towards that creation. This does feel like a test. It feels like a first stepping stone towards the ultimate goal, which to me, I would love Cavalier and Gaultier to come back together and do one ultimate version of Classique as a niche fragrance. Could you imagine? Ah, that one I would buy, hands down. I would blind buy that one. I wouldn't need to test it out for what you want. $300 for it. Here you go. Boo boo. Give me my bottle and shut the F up and let me just enjoy my perfume. But it ain't happening anytime soon. At least thank God that Louis Vuitton does not have Jacques Cavalier locked into an exclusive contract, which means that Jacques Cavalier can also do perfumes for other houses. And he is doing perfumes for other houses, which means technically he would be allowed to make a perfume for Gaultier, unless his contract doesn't exclude him working with other certain brands. This I do not know. This we cannot know. How can we know this possibly? Natalie says, Dacob, do I have the body cream, Les Exclusives of Chanel? I do have only samples. I never purchased a full bottle. The smell is almost non-existent. That cream has a smell that is made to add the perfumes on top to extend the life of the perfumes on your skin. It's a waste of money if you ask me, that cream. Just a cute little packaging, but the cream is just made to milk you out of even more money. Just get the perfumes, you know. That's all that's needed. Debbie says, Perfume de-evolution. Oh, Aisha says, Dacob, if I ever win the lottery, I will pay for you to open your own perfume house. Imagine how amazing that would be. Oh, Aisha, that would be amazing. And you would be my muse, obviously. Pixel says, would anyone have any recommendations for a nice rose perfume? I really dislike fruity, citrusy smells. Yes, Pixel, try Classique by Gaultier. It's a wonderful rose. It has ginger in it as well, though, but the ginger root, really. So it's not fruity. And of course, the rose of all roses, Chanel No. 5. There's no fruit in there. Chanel No. 5 is a wonderful May rose, but you gotta get it in the pure perfume. Now, the rose in this one is very rose. You got the jasmine, sambac, and the rose in the top notes. Unfortunately, like Pixel Hexes also says here in the chats, in the live chats, the fruitiness is a mess. And it annoys me too. It annoys me too. And the raspberry in here kills it. Like, just take that raspberry out, girl, and then we're good to go. But at the end of the day, this thing smells too synthetic for a niche perfume. And by niche, I don't even want to say Louis Vuitton perfumes are niche anymore. They're making too many of them to be niche, to be honest with you. And there's so many Louis Vuitton boutiques worldwide, and you can order them online as well. It's like, it's not even niche. It's a mass-released product, and it smells like a mass-released product. The only problem is it costs like a niche perfume. This is a perfume that should cost instead of like $250 a bottle or however much they cost now, it should cost 100, 110 tops a bottle. Not more. It's your classic Lancôme release of every day, you know. There's nothing special about this one. It saddens me to say it because, I mean, some of the ingredients are amazing. And the Pittosporum, which I can't identify in this thing, because the raspberry just takes over. I do not know how the Pittosporum smells like. I love the name of it. Pittosporum, darling. Could you imagine a name of a person? Like Bond, James Bond. You're like Sporum, Pittosporum. Ah, that's a special agent I want to work with. But no, this ain't it. It's a cutesy little fresh teeny rose vibe that wants to be daring because they put jasmine sambac in the top notes, but doesn't deliver the edge. That's bottom line. And if you like your roses, no matter how concocted they are, then you should go for this one. This is just yet another flanker of a rose. Actually, that's how they should have called this one. Not the poetic name that they did call it, the Hours of Absence. Instead, they should have just called it another Louis Vuitton rose flanker. Jacques Cavalier tried it again. Thank you guys so much for watching. That's that. Let me cue in the end titles. And let me read your comments while we are crediting you, my wonderful Tier 1, Tier 2 members and patrons, all credited here at the end. So if you become a patron or a Tier 1 or Tier 2 member of my main YouTube channel or patron of Super Dacob, your name gets listed at the end of every video, credited like the co-producer that you is of the Fashion Bunker, in this case of the Perfume Fragrant Bunker. And the super chats and the donations are also listed here. So whoever during the live streams donates to the Fashion Bunker through the direct donation link or sends super chats to the Fashion Bunker, your names are also listed here at the end of the credits. Alright, so let me read some of your chats. And thank you so much for all the members, patrons, and super chatters and donations that have come in. Without you, the Fashion Bunker wouldn't be here. Barbara, send ouds. Oh my God, bubbles the bub. Barbara says, the Louis Vuitton ouds are the exclusives. In fact, they only made 3 and they're 50% more expensive. Yes, the Louis Vuitton ouds, there's also one of the Louis Vuitton ouds that costs $1,000 and something that they made a limited edition with the agar wood oil, essential oil, pure essential, yada, yada, yada. I've smelt it. I've even reviewed a couple of their ouds on my channel. Again, it's not worth the money, you guys. But I don't know. Barbara's saying that they are exclusive. Susie Q says, I bought Le Lion and it arrived yesterday. Thanks so much, Dacob. Oh, Susie Q, let's talk later about if you enjoyed Le Lion or not. Would you say Chanson Tendre is floral or more fruity? Miami 81. For me, it's more floral. It's definitely more floral, but going into that acidic area in the opening notes where it almost makes you smell fruits, but it's not. It's because it's quite acidic, but in the dry down, it's just pure flowers. It's the smell of violet, pink, and lavender all together. I love the Chanson Tendre, especially the Eau de Parfum concentration. Okay, I read that one already. Hold on. Let me scroll to the bottom of the chats. So, when it comes to these, okay, there's a rose in Hermeson's line. I like it a lot, and I hate rose. Rose is a very interesting smell. It can smell very synthetic for the most, just like with patchouli. Most of the patchouli fragrances out there are terrible. It's very rare to get a good, same with lavender. A lot of the essential oil of lavender is a synthetic one, and most of it is really bad. Doesn't smell really good. So once you do come across a good lavender, you will never be able to smell the cheap ones again. It's just a fact. Same applies to rose. It's a smell that has been synthesized to death. So you can find really cheap rose-based perfumes out there that maybe in the first whiff out of the bottle are going to smell like, oh wow, rose, but then when you start wearing it, it turns into a chemical, metal-smelling mess. And it's very, very difficult actually to really get a good quality rose. It really is. So that's why if our first experiences with rose scented fragrances are from those synthetic roses that don't smell so good, of course we're not gonna like rose. But trust you me, if you encounter a really good synthesized rose or extracted rose, as pure as it can get, in a perfume, if you find that and smell that, you will love it. It's just so rare. It's just so rare. So we're used to kind of associating the synthetic smelling rose with rose in general in perfumery. And that's the problem. We've been used and accustomed to the shit, to the crap. So it's very, very rare to find the good stuff. But if you do find a good rose, you love it. There's no not loving a really good rose. Now that this thing has been drying down, my last thoughts. It's a bit better now that it's drying down. It's turning a little bit more buttery, sandalwoody. You know, the raspberry is leaving us finally. But it still has that soapy touch in it that makes it smell like conditioner and detergent. So for me, this ain't warranting a full bottle purchase from the niche world. Thank you guys so much for watching. Until next time, never forget to never give up on perfume. Love you all. See you soon. Take care. Bye.